Hello everyone and welcome. So in this video we'll be doing a Bifrost tutorial, just to be different. And we will be creating this simple cliff you see in here, but that can add some life to your scenes, to your environments. And I will be doing this one step by step so you can follow along and maybe learn something new if you haven't touched much of Bifrost. So yeah, let's get started. So in a fresh new scene, let's open the Bifrost graph editor and create a new graph. We can get rid of this. And we will start by creating a disk or a circle so we can work from there. So for that, since we don't have a default circle compound, we will create our own. So we will start with a cylinder and let's connect it to a terminal so we can see the final result. So this is the cylinder, and in here on the we will have the tags for both the bottom faces and top. So we can just get component tag to get the top faces, I believe. So let's get the top tag, copy it and place it in here. And now we will have the indices to filter the mesh. So we can just say filter faces, connect this to the mesh and connect this to faces to keep. So something like this. Now we need to translate it to the origin. In my original setup, I used the get point position, subtracted 0.5, and then set the point position. But maybe let's try something different, like transform points. We can just place it in here, and let's see if we can create an SRT to matrix. Connect it here, and on the translation, let's set it to -0.5. So this will also work. And I used 32 segments in here, so maybe let's keep it like that. And maybe increase the radius a little bit, like 1.1. So just to keep some consistency, you don't need to follow those exact values. Let's create a null node or a pass node in this case. You can alt and drag the node to the connection and it will automatically connect. So we can maybe select this, Control G to create a compound, and let's say create circle. So we just made our first compound. You can publish it if you want. So publish create circle, and then you can reuse it in other scenes. And in this case, I will leave it open. When you check the file, you will be able to follow along or to open the file without having to download the compound. So what we'll do next? So in this case, we will scatter this circle. We will deform it and extrude it and scatter it around to form the clip shape. But for that, we will need some geometry to scatter on. So let's create a mesh plane. So plane, create mesh plane. Let's connect it here to see the result. And we will set the length to 1.5 and the width to 5 to 4. Let's say 4. Something like this. Now we want to displace it on the Z and X axis and leave the Y as it is, flat. So for that we will need to create another compound. So let's create a get point position to get the position of the point. Then in this case we will we will create a vector to scalar, vector 3 to scalar. So we get the position and we have the x, y, and z values. Now we want to convert it to a scalar for to using our displace points. So let's first connect it. It will be easier to see the result when we see the result. So now we want to flatten the y-axis. So when we apply some displacement, it won't affect the vertical axis. So for that, we'll do scale to vector. In this case, is this a vector 4? Yeah, vector 3. So scale to vector, scalar to vector. And we will leave the y-axis at 0, as you can see in here, and connect this to the displacement vector. And now we will create a fractal noise, and get the position. We will need the position for the noise, and connect this to the weights. So we will get something like this. I will copy some values I had before, so we end up with a similar result. So an amplitude of 0.87, this is just the overall effect. And maybe this is fine. This is similar to what I had. And then in the on the seeds, we might want to play with it. So in this case, I picked seed 8. And on the displace points, we can scale down the effect to something like 5.53. So something like this. Let's save. And when you save, this will be very light, because this is just a procedural setup. So it won't really save the geometry. It won't bake the geometry. So the file will be really small. Now, before we scatter, we will first create the geometry to scatter. So let's go from this, and let's create another displace points. We will now displace the circle, the initial circle. So we have the surface to scatter, and now we will create the geometry to scatter. So we will displace points, and let me see, I have here compound. Yeah, the compound is called flatten y, which just does this. So I believe I can just copy from here and Control G, and this will output the point position. Let me organize this. So the point position, and in this case we can rename this to flatten, and we can also rename this to flatten. So now we can copy this one and place it in here, and we will connect the geometry and to the displacement vector. And now we will need again another fractal. So let's create another fractal noise, and we can get the point position from here and connect this to the weights. And in this fractal we'll keep pretty much default, maybe increase the frequency to 0.7, and that's basically it. And now we need to control the overall effect, which I want it to be subtle, so around 0.26. I'm rounding the values I have in here. And from here we can extrude the faces, so we need to create the geometry. So let's extrude it, and let me see, I will go add some divisions, 7, and extrude it by about 3.6. So these are some basic modeling operations that we have in Bifrost right now. We don't have many, but we will take advantage of the ones we have, and the rest we will do with some volumes. Now I want to displace again, so I will copy this setup in here to just to give some randomization to the shapes. So let me connect this to the flatten and the displace points in here and connect to the terminal. In this case, let me see which values I used. So around 0.7 in here, 0.74, a frequency of 0.3, and we can maybe reduce this, and the rest is fine. And I played with the seed, which is about 17. By the way, let me check the other seed, which is 2. I can set that up, so something like this. Won't make much difference, but I'm just trying to stay consistent. Okay, now we can work on our scatter setup. So let's scatter some points. Let's connect it in here. Let's go with the scatter points. And we will scatter about with blue noise in this case to be the points will be more relaxed and evenly spaced. So let's go about 30, something like this. And maybe I played with the seed. No, in this case, no. Now we can actually start 2 instances. So let's create instances. This is like a copy to point setup. And we will copy the points in here and the instance geometry on the instance geometries. Let's connect it. And we see this sort of stuff. Maybe it's too many points, but let's keep it for now because we still need to change the scale and so on. Why is showing wireframe? Am I selecting the... Well, let's continue. Let's randomize point scale. So randomize point scale. We will first change the scale just on the y-axis. So if we connect these, you can start to see we get this random scale. And we just want to randomize the y, so in here just set y only and the mean of 0.21 and the max in this case of 0.86. And the seed, we can play with it. You can play with it, as you can see, and it should work. I'm not sure why it's showing the wireframe. What am I doing wrong in here? So it was just a matter of selecting the Bifrost node and deselecting, and probably a display error. And I'm not sure if this is the right look. Let me just see. I scattered 30 and seed of 0, blue noise, randomize point scale, and now we want to randomize all the axes. So first we randomize the y value, and now we randomize it uniformly. So let's create another randomized point scale, connect it in here, so points, out points, and let's see, let's go for a value of 0.7.8 and a max of 0.92, and in this case I chose the same seed, so 298. So something like this. Is this looking the same? Let me check my file. So we actually need to change some things in here. So this is set to a number, and we will displace this a bit more, so 0.5. And honestly, I couldn't get the same look, so maybe we'll, let me check. Okay, let's keep going, and we can play with the seed and forget about my initial file. So let's go with the randomize point rotation to randomize the rotation, and we will just randomize it along the Y. So I guess this is fine like it is. Maybe play with the seeds. So it will randomize a bit on the X and the Z, and 360 on the Y. So yeah, let's play with the seed because I couldn't get a similar result. So maybe something like this isn't bad, and play again with this scale. This is just too uniform. So let's play with some seeds. I like that one before. So maybe let's keep it like this. It's not looking bad, right? And it will look a bit better at the end. So from here we will need to bake the instances. So let's create bake instances since we want to convert this to a volume. So let's bake them, and this will output the same result. Oops, merge meshes. And bake instance geometry. Why is it looking like that? Let's try to update mesh normals. Update mesh normals. This should fix it, I think. Yeah. So that is fine. Now, let me see. I am converting this to a volume, and why is that? Maybe I want to create more resolution, that's why. So we will create a mesh to volume, and in here we don't want fog, we want a level set, so an SDF. And let's see the quality. I set it in here, so let's go with a value of 0.01, and we will smooth it a bit. So let's create a smooth level set, smooth level set property, that's the name. And let's see, in this case I didn't use the smooth, so we can get rid of it. And let's resample the volume to have, we can create first the volume to mesh to see the final result. I just want to add resolution so I can displace it. So let's create a volume to mesh, and this is the resolution we have. It's not much, we will need a bit more to create the effect. So let's create a resample volume, Let's check our resample volume. So in the resample, we want the detail size scale to be 0.25. So we will give it some more resolution. And there you have enough resolution. Don't worry about the low polygon look. It won't matter much because we will create the displacement next. So after the volume to mesh, since we have an array of objects, we can create a first in array, and this will just output the current one. So let me see. Yeah, we just have one object. So now we will apply some displacement, but we don't want it on the top parts. So we just want on the sides, not the top or the bottom. For that we will need a mask to use as displacement, to use as weight in a displacement. So after the first in array we can update mesh normals again, update mesh normals, and we can create a dot product between the point normal and the y-axis, so a vector pointing in the y. And if we preview that, so diagnostic material, let's disconnect. You can use Shift Alt and drag to disconnect a node. Connect this and this in here, and let's see how that looks, if that works at all. So yeah, so dot product between, let me see. Oh, in this case it's not the y, we want it like this on the x and the z, so we don't want on the y. Is this working? Update mesh normals, and we will create a dot product. This should be working. Okay guys, forget about the dot product, we won't use that. We will actually do in another way. So let's create a displace point, since we will displace the geometry. And in this case, I'm going to use a node I created called triplanar. And this is just uses the sample texture file from Bifrost 2.11. So you should have that node. And I just copied a triplanar setup from Unreal and did it in Bifrost. I will make this compound available. So that's what I'm going to use to displace the geometry. So let's connect this to the input mesh, and I'm gonna use a texture to displace the geometry. So I will use this texture in here, and a tiling of 0.4 and a blend amount of 10, and this can have an offset of 10 and 1.7, so some values I have from before. Now we can change these to scalar, since it's a displacement. So vector 3, in this case vector, what is coming in here? Okay, vector 3 to scalar, and we can just use the X or any of those. Let's connect this to assign diagnostic material, and let's see. Am I recording? Yes. So let's connect in here. So this is the triplanar displace, as you can see, and we now can use this as a weight, so that is fine. And next we actually need to remap these values, since this is a Megascan's displacement map, so we need to remap them. Change range, and we will remap them between minus 0.5 and 0.5, and from range I believe is 0 to 1. We can actually place it at 0.6. So let's see how that looks. This might, so it's displacing quite a bit. We need to tone it down. So 0.075, and this is the result we're getting. But now I don't want to displace it on the top because it just looks weird, and on the bottom also. So what we can do, let me see, we can take the normals and flatten y, so maybe vector to float, vector 3 to float, to scalar, sorry, I'm thinking Houdini in here. And we can take a scalar to vector and flatten the y. So let's see if that actually works. And it does. So we don't need any of that dot product thing. So this should be working. And now, if you want to get a smoother result, what you can do is using the Van Allen compounds that I will leave a link in the description, and we will just smooth a bit the normals before the displacement. So we can use a median property blur from Van Allen again, awesome compound, and we can set it to about 20, and in this case point normal. So point normal, and now we connect it in here, and if we check the result, let's see with it, without it, and as you can see, this might have some issues around the corners, so with it maybe we can notice some difference. In this case, not actually. Am I doing this properly? Maybe let's try 50. So in this case it's having no effect. I believe that's because of this displacement vector I'm using in here. So let's disconnect it just to check if that's the issue. So maybe let's reduce it to 50. So that is the issue. So what we can do is do the blurring and then get point normal, since we need those normals changed. And let's organize this a bit. This is a bit of a mess. So triplanar and this as vector. Did I connect it? No. So this is vector. And as you can see, this will help to smooth out problematic areas, because we're not doing the displacement on volumes, but rather on just plain mesh. So let's maybe try to increase this to check if we see a difference. Yeah, it smooths out a bit the shapes. So yeah guys, that's basically done. Now you can convert this to a Maya mesh or even use the Bifrost one by assigning a material and scattering some objects like trees and grass on the tops. Maybe we can do that next time. So not exactly the same result I got on my first attempt, but it is what it is. I hope you have enjoyed this one. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.